The go-ahead has been given to Scotland's so-called super jail, which will replace the Victorian-age Barlinnie. HMP Glasgow is expected to be built by 2028, years behind schedule, and its cost has soared to nearly £1 billion, almost 10 times the original estimate. Defending the project, the Justice Secretary insists it's a critical investment which will create jobs and improve rehabilitation. STV's chief reporter Sharon Frew has been looking into the project.
Scotland's largest prison opened in 1882. Today, Barlinnie is outdated and overcrowded. Its population this morning was 1,383. This is an artist's impression of parts of its modern replacement.
What we're designing in is enough capacity. It's an extra 357 spaces over and above the design capacity for Barlinnie. So in Barlinnie just now we struggle to give people a purposeful day, just due to overcrowding and high numbers and old facilities. The new one is purposefully designed to make sure that all the facilities are there for both challenging offending behaviour, supporting people and building resourcing people, and try and get them to cope with life back in the community.
By 2014, the predicted cost of the new prison was £100 million. By 2023, MSPs were told that estimate was likely to exceed £400 million. Now the cost of the construction contract has increased to more than £630 million. The addition of VAT and land acquisition means the total cost of the project stands at almost £1 billion.
The new HMP Glasgow, I am confident, will be transformative in terms of how we rehabilitate offenders who receive a custodial sentence. The price is on a par with the costs of prison build in England and Wales. We have seen significant inflation in the construction industry. That is a result of Brexit, COVID, labour and material shortages, but we also have to recognise that earlier estimates were based on a much smaller prison.
The new prison to be built in Glasgow's Provan Mill was previously set to open in November next year. The new delivery date is now 2028.
This is extraordinary. What we're seeing is nearly £1 billion of spend. That's 10 times over budget of taxpayer money for a prison that's now not even going to be operational for another 3 years. This is an extraordinary failure by the SNP government. Yet another one to add to the A9, the ferries, the National Care Service. What we've got here is a government that has shown time and time again it cannot deliver large-scale infrastructure projects.
The new prison will be very different in design. The Victorian-built Barlinnie is no longer fit for purpose. This hall is one of several accommodation blocks and it houses between 280 and 300 men.
Rehabilitation will be absolutely at the focus of the design. So rather than the traditional open galleries, we've got solid floors, which is actually based on feedback from prisoners about what's conducive with rehabilitation. It reduces noise, vibration, so they can undertake in-cell learning, better quality of sleep. We'll have smaller cohorts of prisoners, so communities, wings of 20 prisoners, landings of 60, to create more of a community ethos.
The price is difficult for people to stomach, I would imagine. It's a prison and it's not a popular decision to build prisons, so I personally thank the government for that because it's going to make my life and the staff's life a lot easier in a modern facility.
That remains 3 years away, so won't help the current capacity issues. Next week, legislation comes into force that will see hundreds of prisoners released early as part of longer-term measures to tackle overcrowding.
Well, we discussed this with the Stirling University criminologist Dr. Hannah Graham and former prisoner Jordan Robertson. Let's start with the costs, because a lot of people are going to be shocked that the price has soared to £1 billion and will lead to just an extra 357 places in the prison estate. Can this be justified, Hannah?
It's a part of a big question about how public funds are spent, and perhaps two things can be true. So yes, the old Victorian-era Barlinnie does need to be replaced. We need to deal with those inhumane conditions and shift to a more modern prison estate. But can it be justified when, in terms of adding 350 new places, well, we've seen from last year that the prison population can go up by 350 places in a matter of 8 or 9 weeks. And £1 billion could mean a lot when we think more about communities, housing, welfare, charities and community groups that actually do the hard work of helping people leave crime behind. So there are big questions about value.
Yeah, because we heard the current prison governor of Barlinnie, McSoney himself, saying the public are going to find this hard to stomach. I mean, is it justified? Is it worth it?
Well, the thing you need to look at as well, we're closing into the margin of nearly £1 billion, and the estimated completion date is still a few years out, so that's, with me, an experience of construction is definitely going to exceed that. But the thing is, this is an investment that's going into place before anybody steps foot in the new jail, so we're not accounting for staffing costs or what is the rehabilitation programme. What have they got that in store? What, are they going to bring experts in to do kind of like psychological assessments and kind of thing? That costs money as well, so there is an added cost. And with the size of the place, you're going to need to have staff that can adequately deal with the prison population. So it's definitely going to get more expensive. But you think if you put into nearly £1 billion into your various charities that deal with offending-related behaviour and that kind of thing, think of the results you would get for that rather than just building an upgraded Barlinnie.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen from Sharon's package the pictures of what the new prison is going to look like. It's obviously very different from the old Barlinnie where you were an inmate. I mean, how will having a new building help reduce reoffending and make it easier to rehabilitate people?
Well, as I say, it's like the aesthetics of the place doesn't really account for much, because if it's just Barlinnie with a facelift, then you're just going to see the exact same problems we've seen before. The reason Barlinnie was built was to deal with overcrowding issues, so now another jail is getting built because Barlinnie is experiencing overcrowding issues. And if you look back at history, you'll see that is a recurring problem in the Scottish prison system. There seems to be like an institutional memory loss, because we're not looking at, right, why are people keep coming back to jail? We've made jail as hard as we can make it, people keep coming back, so what is the deterrent? And having a new building that does look nice on the outside, how are the halls going to look? How are the wings? If you look at the likes of Addywell and Low Moss, they're brand new jails, did they help ease reoffending rates? I don't think they did.
Do you think it will make it easier to rehabilitate prisoners? We heard there are little things like there's going to be soundproof floors, there's going to be smaller kind of wings, there can be smaller communities. Will little things like that really make a big difference?
So there's practical examples where if prison staff time is spent less on unlocking and locking doors and walking people around a Victorian building, there might be potentially more education, more employment opportunities, a better regime. But in terms of bricks and mortar don't rehabilitate people, IKEA furniture doesn't rehabilitate people, or a new paint colour. It's relationships, support services, a home to return to when you leave HMP Glasgow. There's a lot more to it.
So if it's, a different place in the same system, nothing's going to change?
No, definitely not. And I think, see, with Mick Stoney, of course, he's got a kind of positive outlook on it, and he hopes it's going to solve a lot of issues. And right now, as you say, there's 300 extra spaces, so right now it would help ease the overcrowding issue they're experiencing. But if you're trying to create a new building with the same regime, I think you're just going to create a lot more problems. And as I say, the staffing issue is one. If you're not bringing in the necessary change to the regime, then it's just going to probably end up a powder keg of what it is right now. So there's a lot, as I say, they think the hard work is in investing into it and building it. That's the easy part. The hard work is the long road ahead to actually try to implement the new regime.
And what do you think should change?
So, as Hannah said, their relational wealth is very important in giving people a community and allowing people to be heard as well. But plus as well, it needs to be a two-way street, because we can all say, right, this is what the prison system has to offer, but the people that are in there need to want to change as well. And a lot of people don't change because they don't see themselves as being able to change. So it's giving people that vessel for expression. For the likes of myself, I was able to go into the prison system and change because I was able to create opportunities for myself outside, which made me realise, wait a minute, this is taking me away from a purposeful life. So it's giving people purpose in there. And I don't think your standard bricklayers, work parties, or your your cleaners and that kind of stuff, which is good to give somebody a bit of stability. But I think we need to kind of get to the root, right? What is it we can do with you? What kind of skills, what talents have you got? So we've got a lot of talented people in the prison system, but if they're going in there believing they're worthless, then they're going to adapt and develop behaviours that will reflect that.
Would you agree with that, Hannah?
Very much so, yeah. And we would hope for the next generation of Glaswegians, for Scots, that thinking more about communities and prevention, as well as support to return to communities, would have a focus on fewer victims in future, because the prison's emergency over and over won't be addressed by £1 billion big new building. Scots have been imprisoning people for a long time at a high rate. So we will need a bigger vision and more collaboration.
Just very briefly to finish, a lot of people think, we've seen the new prison setup looks, very smart. A lot of people think prison should be austere. It shouldn't be all nice and new and shiny and nice, Yeah,
well, if you look at Barlinnie's an eyesore, for lack of a better description. Does it stop people going there? Well, there's 1,300 guys in there right now, it would probably tell you otherwise. So it doesn't matter how it looks, if you're not getting the right support in the community.
It doesn't make any difference.
It doesn't.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll have to leave it there. Thank you both very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.